is 0, then it will be implemented. So 0 becomes 1. Once again it goes back here. 1 is less than 10. It will compare. Actually, this when it is 1, this condition is false because 1 modulo 2 is not equal to 0. It is a 1. The remainder is 1. So that time it will not display. Once again it will be implemented to 2. Okay. 2 once again 2 modulo 2 is 0. That's the even number. It will display and it will be implemented. 3 will not display, 4 will display, 5 will not display. So it will just show the output lines 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. So we can use any of the loops in a C# code simple. The same like that, I mean, suppose if I want to use a odd number, how I can use?
Nothing.
Now it will display 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So any C# code you can use here, any loops you can use here. But only thing is it should be within a add symbol. That statement should be started with that. After that, you should open and close the bracket. Between these two brackets, you should write it. That's the basic thing. Similarly, you can use it to while also. What is the difference between while and do while? Instead of writing here, this now. For HTML while
Nagsasama. Galing na HTML tsaka message. Ito ng programming.
This time showing it in a single application. I'm not going to modify it. So in a while loop, first it will check the condition. If it is true, it will execute the code part. But in a do while what happens? First time it will execute the condition, and after the execution, it is going to check whether the condition is true or false. Here also, if we are going to run the file, the output is
C program.
same thing. Same basic C# or a Java or a C, whatever it is, same. So same as we can use for is loops or any loops you can use. There is no loop. So HTML helper methods. So helper method means in HTML or in a view pages, there are few methods or predefined methods which helps you for including few of the elements. For example, so few of the things we are explaining in MVC framework, helper methods are extension methods to the HTML helper class. Actually, this HTML helper class is there. They define all these elements, all these methods. It can be called only from these. You can use these methods only in a view pages, not in controllers or there. You can use it only with HTML helper classes. You can use it in views. It simplifies the process of creating a view, and it allows the generating HTML markup that you can use across the web application. So few of the examples. First one is HTML.action link. As the name says, action link. Suppose click on some link, it should navigate into another pages. So that time we are using HTML.action link. Similarly, if you are inserting some form, okay, a name and also making the form and ending the form, you are using HTML.begin form and HTML.end form. And next, all these things, next 5 operations are generally we are using with the forms. Suppose if I created username or a password like that, suppose if I am creating some form, so that time we are using HTML.label. Label is the text. Suppose I want to display some name. Suppose first name, generally how it will be that form is first name, one text box, last name, one text box, and so for example, gender means your check boxes or these boxes will be there. So these tools you can include here. The HTML.label is for displaying the text. Suppose if you want to insert a text box, so that time we are using HTML.textbox. HTML.text area is a limit. It is also same like text box, only the thing is it's a big area. For a comment and all, we are using text area. HTML.password to notify any field as a password, so that time we are using HTML.password. HTML.checkbox, suppose you are inserting any checkboxes in a form, so that time we are using these checkboxes. Generally in HTML also you can insert text box, ID is equal to something else, so like that also you can include. But if you are inserting like this, it is more meaningful in case of view pages. Okay, if you are not using this one directly, if you are inserting the name and all, it will exist. Okay. But if you are using this is more predefined statements in an MVC. First, they are starting with the link. HTML.action link helper method allows you to generate hyperlink that constitutes action method of a controller class. Suppose if you click on some links, okay, so it should navigate into another page. So how it will be link? You can link it by using this instruction add HTML action link. So you can use the text name, link text, and an action method and an optional control. So that means what? Generally, in a pages, what happens? Generally, if it is having click to browse, okay. Suppose if I click on click to browse, it has to move to some other pages. So that time I can write, instead of writing a reference, like that we are using in case of HTML. So you can use the same instruction, href is equal to www.abc.com like that. Otherwise, you can use like this, add HTML action link. What is the text it should be displayed? For example, click to browse, we can click to browse here, and then browse is the method name, or action method in a controller, and home is a controller. So, for example, I will take the previous one in a home controller. So this is my home controller. We had public action result index method, okay, and we have created few data sets previously. Okay. I will use the same thing. I am not going to modify anything here. So I am just adding HTML action link in this form. For example, in a home controller, okay, I will add one more method. I will just add one more method. Control C. Okay. For example, I will add a method called about. HTML action result about. I added a method. I will create a view page for about content. Okay. So how to create? Right click, add view, about page will be created, and tag. So it is an about, for example. I will just add a paragraph P slash P. This is about page. Just add this about. Just I added some content. And in the home controller, just I added one method, public action result about. Now, home controller is there, index page is there, about is there. by default when I am running, what happens? It will execute your index method. Correct? No? By default it will execute home controller index method. Suppose in an index method, okay, for example, if I run directly, even though if I am inserting any data, it will show you the previously index method only. Okay. So suppose here I want to give a link to about page. Okay. So how to access it? So I can insert these action link methods wherever you want. For example, after this while whatever the content are there, before body I will insert. Okay. Suppose I want to give a content, it should be preceded with tag, okay, and use HTML dot use action HTML dot action link. In a HTML dot action link, so three things should be there. Okay, first paragraph. Okay, so just add in three things. Okay. So three things should be there. First is, okay, first is what it should display here. In an action link, what it should display. For example, I will type click to connect about you. So the action link text should be click to connect about you. Okay. So what is the text it should display? That I am writing it in a first part. Okay. Next part, okay, second part, this one is, if I click on this one, okay, if I click on this one, which method of controller has to call? Okay, for example, if I execute about means, my home controller about method has to call, correct? No? So that's why in an index, second method, right action method is about. Okay. Third one is optional, you can include controller or if you are removing option or a problem. For example, here index and about both are in the same controller, so no need to insert a home name. Then also it should have. Suppose standard format we can insert a controller name. Add HTML action link. This first part is the what is the name you have given for the link. Okay, and about it which action method has to link. Okay, has to connect. And last one is controller. Suppose now we are going to run the same index page and run it. We can do same page, but here the link is connected. Click to connect about page. So for an HTML link, I have given the text should whatever I wrote here. Okay, it is the text it will display here. Okay, and if I select here, it will connect to a about page, home/about, that means home controller about page will be displayed. So it will link it to another page. Okay, suppose if you want to link from one page to another, so that you can use add HTML action link somewhere. For example, if you are creating a layout with three links, home, about, contact, and all. So if you click on about, it should call it about page. So that time what we do, we are inserting HTML content. About is the name key, about home. Contact us. If the contact us link or a tab it should be there, means insert a action link name is contact us. Create a method in a control called contact and create the contact field. So if you click on contact, it will link it to contact. Suppose if you want to insert multiple contact names, so that time we are using add HTML action. Whatever user reference, and you will see an example which are using all those things together. So next few elements whatever they are explaining in that slide, all those slides we are using with a forms or a registration form or anything, any type of forms we want to create it. So that time we are using these tags first one is in the HTML.begin form. So whenever if you are starting a form, it should start with the @HTML begin form. The HTML.begin form helper method, it allows you to mark the start of the form and it coordinates with the routing engine to generate the URL. Suppose if you click on, once you submit the form, okay, what you should do, or generally if you submit means you should navigate into another page. So those links also you can add it here. It is responsible for producing the opening of form tag. So it will be like @HTML begin form, action method controller name. That means once this form is finished, which method has to call, that you are going to write this action method and a controller name. In that, after the general function will be like this. In a body, you start at HTML begin form. For example, browse home. That means if it is beginning the form, okay. Once it is entered, if you click on submit button or any button, move it to browse method of home controller. So you can observe here. Here we showing action method controller. Browser method of home controller should be called, and your form should be ended with @HTML.end form. Between these, you are going to insert any of the instructions. For example, text box, text area, all those things you are going to insert within the form. Every form should start with HTML.begin form and it should end with end form. So first one is label. Label means, suppose if you want to display some text in a form, for example, first name, last name, age, those are the text whatever you enter. So that thing you can insert the HTML.label. Generally in a HTML you are going to use text block. Text block, some content you are going to insert and you will add. So you can insert text block or you can insert this HTML.label. Okay. So it allows you to display a label in a form, and it enables attaching information to other input elements such as text inputs and increase the accessibility of the applications. Okay. So generally where @HTML.label, you are going to insert a label. Okay. I'll show you a common example for all those things together. So just I'll explain what are the things are there, then we see the. So for example, @HTML begin form, browse home, you can write like @HTML.label username. So you can give a label for any of the content and it should end with a data. After that, next one is text box. Text box is, so after username, box should be there. So for inserting a text box, we are using HTML.textbox. So it allows you to display an input tag, an input information. It is used to access input from a user. So with that part you can accept input. For example, it will be like @HTML.textbox. You can give the name for that, or you can give the helper methods. So textbox text is the name you are giving for textbox. Okay. For example, you can go @HTML username. After username, you want to give a text box. Text box with it enter. Suppose if you want to insert another input type is equal to submit, one submit button also you are input. Okay. And similarly with the text box, next one is text area. What is the difference between text box and a text area? Text box is single line, text area is multi-line. Comments and all this. Your text area should be more. You are going to enter more data. So that time there is a text area. It allows to display a text area element for a multi-line text area. Multiple lines if you want, so that can be text area. And it enables you to specify the number of columns and rows to be displayed in order to control the size of text area. That means how many rows should be there. For example, 5 lines you should allow in a text area. So that time means rows is equal to 5. So that time your text area box will be adjusted according to how many lines or how many rows you are using. So that is for text area. For example, here they are given label username, text box, label of the text area. Text area is for multiple lines. For example, it will display username, label, address, label, and subject. So this is a text area, this is text box, and username and address, these are actually labels. And one more thing is html.password. Suppose if you are having some text box, but it should not be display the content. So that time we are using html.password. So if you are writing a password, if you are typing something, it will not be the content or a text whatever you enter, it will be hidden. Okay, so that time we are using html.password. So essentially html password, html.password, you can give the name for the password. So the next is checkbox. Checkbox, tick mark will be there, square mark. So if you want to use a checkbox, so that time you will be html.checkbox, and if you are using checkbox 1, you can insert a drop down list also. Suppose you want to insert it, so you can insert a drop down list. For example, my list, suppose if you want to use value 1, value 2, value 3, multiple list values will be there. You can use a drop down list. I will show you this example. One example I will take and I will show you. Okay, so just I am showing what are the things are there. You can html.radio button. Radio button means 2 buttons will be there. Any one you can select. For example, gender, male or female. Okay. Boxes will be there. If you want to select that one, so that time there will be radio button. So name, value, is check. Suppose anyone by default should be checked means we can use is check. These are the few HTML helper methods. Those things they will explain in your data. So I'm using the same index page. In index page, I remove all the page and I added this one. So as I told, if you are selecting any form, it should start with HTML. Browse.home and it end with end form. HTML.end form. Between this, we should insert any of the content if I want to add. So, for example, if I submit it into column about you, for example, because I already listed for a day. So, if you want to display any text in table, for example, username, address, password. For example, I need updates on my mail, so the check boxes. So any text if I want to insert, so that time we will use HTML.label part, and text box is for inserting a text box. So text box 1 is for name, username. I want to insert a text box 1. For an address, I am inserting text area. One of the difference is multiple lines will be added. Similarly, for a password, I added the password HTML.password. So if you type anything in a password, it will not display, dot will be displayed there. And checkbox, so I need update if you select this one, okay, if you need update, this checkbox will be tick mark, so that's why I added HTML.checkboxes. And HTML label, select your city and give you drop down list. If you want to use a drop down list, so that time we are using drop down list, and I'm giving a name for drop down list, it's my list, and in list I'm giving few cities near Philadelphia, California, few data I'm giving. And by default it should display choose. Okay. And I'm giving a radio button, male and female, and after that once you submit, select a input type is equal to means one submit button will be there. If you select on that one, it will be added, and HTML.end form it denotes your form is ended. Suppose if you run here, it will show you like this username and all. Suppose text box, you can type something. Text area, address is a text area, so you can also multiple lines are there. You can type here or something. Password, only thing is I made HTML.password. So if you type anything, it will not be displayed. Similarly, I need updates on using checkboxes. HTML text box I used, so that's why I use this one. And select your city, I was using here drop down list and few values, 3 values I inserted, which choose is the default value. So what happens here, if my data what it should display by default it should choose. If you select here, we should new application started. So if you selecting anyone, by default male or female, you select name, you are okay, selecting anyone. If you submit it, it will move it to home browser. Actually, it should be connected about home. I didn't. You can take this one for HTML form or HTML helper, whatever the helper. So actually here the DR and all different green line, nothing but whenever you write DR, then you can this is actually about HTML helper, what are the helper. Take this one.
Given that this power drop down is materially etched up on the option or select the yung gagamit na keyboard para huwag mo na drop down para laging mas materially etched in hindi walang
Next area ata. Hindi.
yung parang pipintin
Ako kasi si ano ba?
okay din yan, ang ganda.
But using HTML and all CSS base. So same that you can use in any part if you want. You can if you want to insert these in animation, you can insert it. If you want to make a style part, you can okay. If you want to make it for label, you can add it. That's all. You can give ID, you can give it class, you can add a style for those class. All those things. And pages. Different ways are there for creating views, general views, partial views, and how to pass the data from controller to view we discussed in last class by using this one, view data and view back, and what are the action methods are there, how to link with another page by using HTML.action link, and how what are the other helper methods are there. Few of the methods, delete form, table, text box, etc. These things we are going to be using in next almost all the examples. So whenever if I am going to connect with the databases and all, I am going to use it. That time don't add what is this text box. So these are mainly for accepting the input. So next class we start about models. After that, database.
Database.